In the dead of night, the phone's shrill ring pierced the silence like a dagger through velvet. I jolted awake, my heart pounding in my chest, the remnants of a forgotten dream scattering like shadows. The clock on my nightstand glowed with an unforgiving red. 2:37 a.m. Who could be calling at this hour? My mind raced through possibilities, emergencies, accidents, or worse. I fumbled for the receiver, my fingers clumsy with sleep, and pressed it to my ear. Mom. The voice on the other end was Lucy's, but it wasn't her usual bright, confident tone. It was muffled, strained, laced with a terror that made my blood run cold. "I'm at the police precinct." The words hung in the air, heavy and ominous. I sat up straight, the sheets pooling around me like discarded worries. "What happened, Lucy? Are you okay?" My voice came out sharper than I intended, a mother's instinct kicking in before full consciousness. She hesitated, her breath hitching in sobs that she tried to suppress. "Richard. He hit me, again. But this time, he filed a report saying I attacked him. They believe him, Mom. They're holding me here." I closed my eyes, trying to steady myself. The room spun slightly, the darkness pressing in. Richard, that name alone evoked a storm of emotions, distrust, unease, a nagging suspicion I'd buried deep for my daughter's sake. I'd never liked him, with his polished charm and calculating eyes. But Lucy had loved him, or so she'd convinced herself. Now, I took a deep breath, forcing calm into my voice. "Tell me everything." As she spoke, her words painted a horrifying picture. Richard had come home late, reeking of whiskey and rage. An argument escalated over dinner, over nothing, over everything. He grabbed her, slammed her against the wall. She fought back for the first time, scratching his arm in the struggle. But he twisted it, cut himself deliberately with a shard of broken glass from a vase he'd shattered, and called the police himself. By the time they arrived, he was the picture of the wounded victim, bloodied shirt, calm demeanor, a story rehearsed to perfection. Lucy, disheveled and hysterical, was the aggressor in their eyes. "There's an officer here," she whispered, her voice dropping even lower. "He's acting strange. Keeps staring at me like he knows something. Like he recognizes me, or I don't know. Mom, I'm scared." That last part sent a chill down my spine, making my entire body tense like a coiled spring. Recognition. In a precinct. My mind flashed back to my years on the bench, 34 years as Judge Julia Miller, presiding over countless cases of domestic violence, fraud, and manipulation. I'd seen this script before, the abuser flipping the narrative, gaslighting the system into siding with them. But hearing it from my own daughter? It was a nightmare I never imagined. Without another thought, I swung my legs out of bed, my feet hitting the cold hardwood floor. No time for lights, no time for hesitation. I grabbed my keys from the dresser, slipped on a coat over my nightgown, and dashed to the garage. The engine roared to life, and I peeled out into the night. The streets were desolate, a black canvas blurred by my speed. Lucy stayed on the line, her ragged breathing a constant reminder of the urgency. "He's got a cut on his arm, Mom. Told them I came at him with a knife. There's blood everywhere." He looked so convincing. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles ached, white as bone. I'd witnessed this inversion 1,000 times in court. The predator posing as prey, the victim vilified, but for it to be Lucy. My Lucy. The bright-eyed girl who'd grown into a strong woman, now trapped in this web. Rage boiled within me, mingled with a fierce protectiveness. Which precinct? I demanded, my voice cutting through the line like forged steel. 3rd Avenue, she replied between choked sobs. 3rd Avenue Precinct. My heart plummeted. Of all places, that district, with its history of cronyism and overlooked complaints. I'd presided over cases from there, knew the undercurrents of favoritism that ran deep. I floored the accelerator, ignoring a red light that blurred past like an irrelevant warning. The city slept, oblivious, but nothing would stop me tonight. Not rules, not reason. My daughter was in a holding cell, while her monster roamed free with a fabricated wound and a silver tongue. I arrived in 12 minutes flat, a drive that should have taken 20. I double-parked brazenly in front of the entrance. The precinct's harsh fluorescent light slicing through the night like accusatory blades. The air inside hit me like a wall. Stale coffee, sweat, and the metallic temps of fear. A young officer manned the desk, his uniform crisp, but his eyes wary. He looked up as I approached, and in that instant, his face drained of color. His hand froze, mid-reach for his keyboard, eyes widening in shock, as if I'd materialized from a ghost story. "Excuse me, ma'am?" he stammered, his voice faltering. The words died unspoken, hanging in the tense air. I stared him down, saying nothing at first. In those endless 3 seconds, I watched him swallow hard, his Adam's apple bobbing nervously. His hands trembled faintly on the desk. Recognition flickered in his gaze, followed swiftly by fear. He knew who I was. "Officer," I said at last, my voice echoing in the empty lobby like a pronouncement from the bench. "I'm here for my daughter, Lucy Miller. You will explain exactly what's happening." He shot to his feet so quickly, his chair skidded backward, clattering against the wall. "Judge Julia," he whispered, the title slipping out like a reflex. It had been 5 years since I'd stepped down from the bench, 5 years of retirement, of trying to leave the courtroom battles behind. But here, in this dimly lit precinct, my past resurfaced like an unburied specter. I didn't know the detainee was your daughter," he continued, his voice shrinking. "The husband filed first, came in bleeding, said she attacked him. We have protocols." "Protocols," I echoed, the word tasting like venom on my tongue. I stepped closer to the counter, and he instinctively retreated a pace. "Where is my daughter now?" He pointed down a dimly lit hallway with a hand that shook slightly. "Waiting room. We haven't booked her yet. Detective Sergeant Andrews is handling it personally. He and Mr. Richard are acquainted." Of course they were. Men like Richard always cultivated alliances in the shadows, golf buddies, club members, favors traded like currency. They built fortresses of protection while their victims sank into isolation. "Take me to her," I commanded, leaving no room for debate. He hesitated, glancing toward a closed door at the hall's end. Behind it, no doubt, Andrews and Richard were spinning their web, crafting the official narrative over casual conversation, deciding Lucy's fate as if it were a minor inconvenience. "Now, officer," I insisted, my tone brooking no argument. He nodded jerkily and led the way. Our footsteps echoed off the gray, institutional walls, each one a reminder of the countless corridors I'd traversed in my career, the hearings, the pleas, the broken women begging for justice. But never had I imagined walking one for my own child. He opened a door, and there she was, Lucy, curled in a cheap plastic chair, knees drawn to her chest, a picture of defeat. She looked up, her eyes puffy and red, devoid of the spark I knew so well. But when she saw me, her face crumpled in relief. "Mom," she whispered, stumbling to her feet. She rushed into my arms, collapsing against me, her body racked with tremors. I held her tight, feeling every sob reverberate through her frame, and then I felt it something that iced my veins. As her sleeve rode up in the embrace, I glimpsed the dark rim of a bruise. Not fresh, but aged, a shadow of violence long endured. Gently, I tugged the fabric aside. She tried to pull away, but it was too late. The marks trailed up her arm like a roadmap of torment. Fingerprints etched in purple and yellow. Lines where strong hands had gripped her repeatedly, over days, weeks perhaps. "Lucy," I whispered, my voice cracking for the first time that night. "How long has this been going on?" She shook her head, tears streaming unchecked. "I couldn't tell you." "Mom, I couldn't. You've spent your whole life as a judge, saving women like me. I didn't want you to think I'd failed. That I was stupid, that I missed all the signs." I closed my eyes against the wave of pain in her words. How had I not seen? How had I missed the subtle changes, the forced smiles, the long sleeves in summer, the excuses for canceled visits? I hugged her closer. "You didn't fail," I murmured into her hair. "He failed. The system is failing you right now, but I won't let it. I promise." Pulling back, I turned to the officer, his badge read, who lingered awkwardly at the door. "Officer, I need the complaint report. I need to see Richard. And I need to speak with Detective Sergeant Andrews immediately." John swallowed visibly. "Judge Julia, I remember you. You saved my sister 10 years ago. The Morales case. You issued that protective order just in time. I was 19, sitting in the back of the courtroom when you sentenced him." The confession hung in the air, heavy with reverence and guilt. Silence stretched, thick as fog. "I didn't know Miss Lucy was your daughter when they brought her in," he added. "Richard got here first, bleeding, composed, convincing," said she snapped, "needed psych help. Andrews knows him from the country club." They were chatting over coffee while we processed her. Each detail was a fresh wound, confirming the rot I'd long suspected in the system. "Where is he now?" I demanded. John gestured toward the end of the hall. "In Andrew's office, giving his statement." I turned to Lucy, cupping her face in my hands. "Look at me," she did, her eyes brimming with terror and shame. "This ends differently tonight. You hear me? I know every ploy, every lie. I'll dismantle them all." A flicker of hope sparked in her gaze, fragile but real. I pivoted toward the door, striding down the hall with John trailing. "Judge Andrews might not," he began. I cut him off without glancing back. "He'll listen, and when I'm done, he'll regret ever sharing that coffee." My footsteps rang with authority. 34 years of judicial experience fueling each one. I knew the loopholes, the weak points in false accusations, the ways men like Richard weaved their deceptions. I reached the office and shoved the door open without knocking. Detective Sergeant Andrews looked up from his desk, surprise flashing across his weathered face. Richard sat opposite, lounging as if in his own denim-immaculate white shirt save for the artful bloodstain. Black slacks, a luxury watch glinting like a trophy. A neat bandage wrapped his forearm. He feigned exhaustion, the consummate victim. When Richard saw me, a ripple crossed his features, shock. Then swift calculation, settling into that insidious smile I'd seen on so many defendants. Men who thought charm could conquer truth. "Julia," he said, rising with mock politeness, "I didn't expect you here." His voice was smooth, velvet masking razors. "How could I not be?" I retorted, slamming the door shut. "My daughter is detained because you assaulted her and dared to file a false report. Andrews stood, palms raised in Julia, I get this is tough, but procedures. Richard arrived first, injured. We follow protocol. Protocol. I advanced on the desk. Did you conduct a forensic exam on Lucy? Photograph her injuries. Or just his superficial cut? Andrews blinked, mouth agape. Silence his damning answer. Richard cleared his throat. Julia, I know you're her mother. But Lucy's unwell, stressed. She lost control. I defended myself. I fixed him with a piercing stare. Seeing through the facade, the rehearsed gestures, the sympathetic eyes. This was no impulse. It was performance art. How long have you been plotting this, Richard? My voice was ice. A week, a month. Since you realized she might leave and turn you into the villain you are. His composure flickered a blink, but I caught it. I don't know what you mean, he said, an edge creeping in. I'm here because my wife assaulted me with a knife. I have the wound, witnesses to the commotion, the right to report. Witnesses. I pressed. The neighbors who called police multiple times. Who heard screams for months. Saw her black eye you claimed was a fall. Color leached from his face, subtle but telling. The neighbors have nothing to do with this, he stammered. I smiled coldly. They do now. When statements are taken, their story will shred yours. The pleas, the crashes, the nights she begged you to stop. Richard sank into his chair, cracks appearing in his armor. Andrews interjected. Julia, this isn't court. You can't interrogate. I can, I snapped, wheeling on him. We've crossed paths for 20 years. Andrews, if you book Lucy without full investigation, photos, witnesses, he'll sue you personally. And sure, every colleague knows you let friendship blind you. The room fell deathly quiet. Andrew's eyes widened. Richard's jaw tightened, knuckles white on the armrests. This is intimidation, Richard hissed. This is justice, I countered. Long overdue. I turned to John. Take Lucy to the hospital. Full forensic exam, photos, report. John glanced at Andrews, who sat frozen, his world unraveling. Do it, Andrews muttered weakly. John nodded and hurried out. Richard surged to his feet. Ridiculous. I'm the victim, real wound. She's fabricating. Fabricating what? I shot back. Weeks-old bruises. Fractured ribs. Burns on her back. His eyes bulged-eyed, revealed too much. The burns a secret even from me until tonight. How? He began, clamping down. Andrews caught it. Burns? Richard recovered. She's lying to shield her daughter. But the fissure was there. I'd widen it to a chasm. I pulled my phone, dialing Elaine, my elder daughter. She answered sleepily. Mom, it's 3 a.m. Elaine, come to 3rd Avenue Precinct now. Lucy's here. Richard assaulted her. Filed false report. Bring the flash drive she gave you 2 months ago. Silence, then rustling. How do you know about that? I know survivors' patterns. They hide evidence. Bring it. I hung up. Richard paled. What flash drive? I smiled. The recordings, every threat, hit, boast that no one would believe her. It was a bluff, but patterns don't lie. Lucy was clever, and Richard's Blanche confirmed it. That's illegal. He spluttered. No consent. Admissible in DV cases, I retorted. You'd know if you followed laws, not bent them. Andrews slumped. Comprehension dawning. A orchestrated setup. Self-inflicted wound. Connections exploited. Richard, he said gravely, call your lawyer. Richard gaped. Andrews, we're friends. Golf every Thursday, you know me. I know nothing, Andrews cut in, authority returning. That's the issue. The door swung open. John rushed in. Ambulance here for Miss Lucy. Paramedics note visible trauma bruises in stages. Possible fractures, ligature marks. Each word hammered Richard, who deflated further. Neighbors from 203 and 205 are here, John added. Heard the call, want to statement. Say it's vital. Andrews nodded. Bring them. An elderly woman in a robe and a weary man in his 50s entered. We've come for the truth, the woman declared, pointing at Richard. He's abused that girl months. Screams, thuds, pleas. Called police thrice you came. He charmed. You left. The man nodded. Tonight, glass breaking, her screaming he'd kill her. Then, silence. He left calm, bandaged. Not a victim's walk of planners. Richard exploded. You saw nothing. Weren't inside. We saw enough. The woman snapped. No more silence. Andrews silenced him. Enough. John, full statements, details, dates, calls. To Richard, you stay. Not leaving till cleared. I watched his facade shatter. Legan's gone. Just desperation. I exited, confident. Evidence spoke louder than lies. In the hall, paramedics wheeled Lucy out. She looked tiny, fragile. I took her hand. I'm with you. The ride was silent. She stared at the ceiling, eyes vacant. I held on, the paramedic noting. Sustained abuse pattern. Bad one. At the ER, bright lights assaulted us. Dr. Roberts, hair tied back, entered. Full exam. Mom stays. Lucy nodded faintly. Yes. The exam revealed horrors. Arm bruises. Rib marks, wrist circles. Backburn, cigarette scars. 3 months ago, Lucy murmured. Dinner late. Discipline lesson. I shut my eyes, daggers twisting. How blind I'd been, missed signs, hidden pain. Dr. Roberts documented, ordered x-rays, recommended social worker. Alone, Lucy whispered, sorry, Mom, should have told you. Don't apologize. Not your fault. I sat beside her. Why wait? Tears flowed. You saved so many. I became one, ashamed, stupid. Thought you'd see failure. I hugged her gently. You survived. That's strength. Elaine burst in, disheveled, flash drive in hand. Sisters embraced, crying. Recording's ours, Elaine said. Lucy gave it. If anything happened, why not sooner? I asked Lucy. Fear, Richard's threats, contacts, disbelief. Unstable wife. Tonight, he snapped. Cut me with glass. I fought. He self-cut, smiled. Now, police believe me. Elaine squeezed her hand. But not Mom. I pocketed the drive. Staying with her. Elaine, I'm back to precinct. Lucy panicked. His lawyer, Robert Clark, best in city. He'll free him, not this time. I kissed her forehead. Dawn broke as I returned. Shift changed, but John remained. Clark's here, pushing release. Threatened suit. I gripped the drive. Where? Andrew's office. I entered. Clark, suave in gray suit, briefcase gleaming, smiled condescendingly. Julia Miller. Turning this into a circus. Your client beat my daughter months. Tried killing her tonight, self-cut for alibi. Clark chuckled. Proof? I have injured client, erratic wife, no forensics. I slammed the drive down. Proof? Silence. Clark eyed it. Richard blanched. Recordings, threats, hits, boasts. Richard, illegal. Andrews plugged it in. Richard's voice boomed. Threats. Crashes, sobs. Your fault. Better wife, no need. Andrews paused, ashen. More. Hours. Time-stamped. Clark could be edited. Need verification. While verifying, I said, detain without bail. Matching medicals, witnesses. Richard trembled. Anything to say. He mumbled for private lawyer talk. Andrews, John, interrogation room. Alone with Andrews. Julia, I didn't know. Seemed good guy. You didn't want to see. Easier believing suit than scared woman. He nodded, ashamed. I'll correct. Charges, aggravated assault, battery, threats, abuse. No bail. His call to prosecutor, solid. Elaine texted, ex-harass fractured ribs, old wrist break, head trauma. Consistent abuse. Rage surged. Videos, she added. Drugged, recorded for blackmail. Home office computer. To Andrews, search warrant apartment office. Extortion, sexual abuse. Warrant granted in 30 minutes. I insisted on going. That house tortured my daughter. Building upscale doorman, facade of perfection. Doorman whispered new. Saw her red eyes, his cold stares. Ashamed, did nothing. Master key granted. Apartment, pristine, artful prison. Office, desk, books, diplomas, power photos. Computer password, company name plus year. Unlocked. Hidden folder, videos, dates year plus. Don't open, I said. Document, preserve chain. Drawer, manila folder stalking photos. Stolen medicals, manipulated psych emails with Clark, plotting discrediting, harassment, surveillance, control. John said. Cybertex arrived. Federal charges porn, harassment, predator. Balcony air cleared my head. City view, beautiful, deceptive. Andrews called. Richard Broke yelled about computer privacy. Confessed inadvertently. Recorded. Doorman. Found enough. Enough for forever. Back. Energy shifted. Prosecutor Patricia White. Tough DV expert. Review evidence. Solid detention without bail. Richard in interrogation. Clark resigned implicated in emails. Public defender assigned. Hospital, Lucy sedated, sleeping. Elaine, she's breathing free. Bail hearing, Patricia presented recordings, reports, testimonies. Judge Hayes disturbing compilation. Bail denied. Restraining order. Richard collapsed, muttering denials. Relief washed me. Safe, for now. Call, Jane Carter, ex-victim. Same to me hits. Control, videos. Threatened silence. Testify, yes, for all us. Patricia, pattern. Strengthens case. 2 more called similar. Robert lost licensing. Meeting, victims shared, recognized pain, united, trial prep, depositions, discoveries, trial, packed courtroom. Evidence avalanche recordings, meds, videos explained. Lucy testified, began post-marriage. Pushes to slaps. Isolated, controlled. Cross, anxiety history. From terror. Jury somber. Others testified, identical cycles. Closing, serial predator. Planned abuse. Verdict sends message. Deliberation, 6 hours. Verdict, guilty, all counts. Sentencing, 25 years. No parole, 15. Lucy smiled through tears. Months later, Lucy's apartment bright, free. Divorce final. Book writing, talks on red flags. Elaine, Andrews suspended, Robert disbarred. Afternoon, Coffee, cake, normalcy. Balcony. Peace, Mom. Stronger self. Driving home. Reflection call changed all. Not revenge, protection. Mothers don't fail.